Mexican man caught on video pulling the corners of his eyes during the World Cup match between South Korea and the Czech Republic has apologized after the clip sparked a backlash. A South Korean content creator had posted a video of herself at the match last Friday, where Ulises Fernando Bernal Miramontes, seated behind her, was seen making the slanted eyes pose, then laughing it off. The pose is seen as disrespectful to East Asians.
For a 22-year-old making his World Cup debut for Sweden, Yasin Ayari could only have dreamed of a better start to his introduction to the biggest showcase of football. With a full-throttled volley into the top corner of Tunisia's net just 7 minutes into the first half of their Group H match in Monterrey, Ayari had opened the scoring for the Scandinavian side against their North African opponents.
Xiaomi has quietly introduced the Redmi Buds 8 in Pakistan, expanding its lineup of wireless audio products in the country. The new earbuds are now listed on Mi Store, but should become available at other online and offline retailers as well. The earbuds offer features such as active noise cancellation ANC, high-res audio support, long battery life, and Bluetooth 5.4 connectivity. Islamabad's mediatory role, as well as those of other countries, was in the limelight on Monday as world leaders welcomed a much-awaited agreement between Washington and Tehran to de-escalate tensions and eventually end a war that began more than 3 months ago and crippled the world economy. The preliminary agreement, first announced by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, is being hailed as a significant diplomatic breakthrough that could restore peace in the Middle East, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and ease global economic pressures.
Long before credit rating agencies existed, there was a simpler test of financial health. Can a borrower pay interest from their income or by borrowing more money? American economist Hyman Minsky gave the failed rating a name, Ponzi finance, and it is worth being precise about it. A Ponzi position is not high debt or even rising debt. It is the specific condition in which you are paying your interest by borrowing more money.
Lahore, the Lahore Heritage Areas Revival Board, LR, has denied reports that the historical Ewing Hall near Neela Gumbad would be demolished following the government's takeover of the property, saying the structure would be preserved and restored. On the other hand, the Foreman Christian College University, FCCU, issued another statement saying that it has been unfairly asked to pay rent for the period from 1975 till 2003, when the FC College was nationalised and it was in the government control. It says that it had replied to the show cause notices properly.
Sweden crushed Tunisia 5-1 to leave the North African nation's defensive reputation in tatters and seize control of World Cup Group F as the Mexican city of Guadalupe hosted its first fixture of the tournament. Graham Potter's men took the lead in the 7th minute of the game on Sunday, courtesy of midfielder Yasin Ayari's thunderbolt from outside the box, following a mix-up at the back.
Taxila. A group of 518 Sikh pilgrims from India departed from Gurdwara Panja Sahib on Sunday for Kartarpur. After completing their religious rites and participating in commemorative ceremonies marking the death anniversary of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the 5th Sikh Guru, the pilgrims offered prayers, performed religious rituals and attended special gatherings in remembrance of Guru Arjan Dev Ji.
Islamabad Capital Territory, ICT. Police have appointed PSP officer Kainat Azhar Khan as Chief Traffic Officer CTO and assigned her the additional charge of SSP Operation Safe City Ops. An ITP official told this agency that the posting and transfer order was issued by IGP Islamabad Syed Ali Nasir Rizvi.
Tutahida Chief says Karachi's growing population and economic importance require a new administrative framework. Politicians, experts and civil society members call for urgent governance reforms in capital of Sindh, Karachi. Mutahida Qaumi Movement Pakistan chairman Dr. Khalid Maqbool Siddiqui has stressed the need of carving out a new urban province in Sindh, saying it has become an unavoidable necessity.
After Sergi Bastardos' decade at Amazon and floriculture startup Colvin, one thing always stood out. The feeling that there wasn't enough efficient human infrastructure to manage the workers behind the scenes. He took this feeling and, in 2025, alongside his co-founders Nacho Travsi and Antonio Millet, launched Orbio, an enterprise startup that helps businesses manage frontline workers. Using AI agents, of course. On Monday, the company announced a $21 million Series A in a round led by Dawn Capital. The startup says its customers already include Poke and Yum brands, owners of Pizza Hut, Taco Bell and KFC, to onboard and manage their frontline employees. Astada said customers are progressing from using Orbio in pilot to now fully deploying the software. As an example, he said that at behavioral health provider the Stepping Stones Group, Orbio now runs the company's full US operation, with 20% more candidates making it through to get hired. The federal government has warned that rising global oil prices, slower economic growth, weaker revenue collection, higher debt servicing costs, and climate-related shocks could undermine its fiscal targets in the coming year, highlighting the fragility of public finances despite signs of macroeconomic stabilization. In a fiscal risk statement submitted to Parliament alongside the federal budget, Finance Minister Mohammed Aurangzeb and Finance Secretary Imdad Ullah Bozal identified 7 major sources of risk that could widen the budget deficit in fiscal year 2026-27. The assessment, required under the Public Finance Management Act 2019, outlines potential threats stemming from macroeconomic conditions, revenue performance, debt obligations, state-owned enterprises, climate change, natural disasters, and commodity financing guarantees.
Pakistan is out of reasons to treat climate change as tomorrow's problem. The Economic Survey 2025-26 reports that the country recorded its second warmest year in 65 years in 2025, immediately after experiencing its warmest year on record in 2024. Temperatures in Azad Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan and KP reached their highest annual levels in decades. These rising temperatures are accelerating glacial melt, altering monsoon behaviour and increasing rainfall variability. The country is confronting increasingly volatile weather patterns with consequences for agriculture, infrastructure, public health and economic planning.
Lahore. The tragic death of a minor girl in a police shootout in Chakwal has been widely covered in the Australian media, as the Crime Control Department CCD chief termed the incident a deviation from the established standard operating procedures. The incident was covered by ABC, The Guardian and SBS news outlets, which highlighted that the Perth-based family was on holiday in Pakistan when they were caught in the police crossfire in Chakwal. On June 10, a 9-year-old girl was killed and her father and brother were injured after the police opened fire at their car in Chakwal, mistaking them for robbers. All of them were Australian nationals. A year after the May 2025 conflict, the India-Pakistan relationship remains volatile. Diplomacy is frozen. Neither side has sought to break the deadlock. A war of words erupts every so often. Last week, it was over the water dispute. Then it was on the Kashmir dispute at the UN. Bilateral relations are at one of the lowest points in their tortured history. Last month saw speculation about the revival of dialogue. It was triggered by voices from India calling for talks. RSS General Secretary Dattatreya Hosabale urged engagement. A former army chief and ex-head of RAW agreed. Leaders from occupied Kashmir chimed in. Pakistan's foreign ministry spokesman responded quickly but cautiously. Describing this as a positive development, he said it was the official Indian line that mattered.
Oil prices fell in early trade in Asia on Monday after Pakistan, which has been mediating an end to the US-Iran war, announced a deal that President Donald Trump said would see the reopening of the key Strait of Hormuz shipping route. Brent crude, the global oil benchmark, was 4% 83.81 at 62.29 a barrel, while US-traded oil was down 4.7% at 80.89.
Finally, after what have seemed like countless false starts, a deal has been agreed by the US and Iran. Both sides have predictably claimed victory. President Trump has boldly declared, "This great deal will bring peace and security to the whole region."
The announcement of a deal to end hostilities between the US and Iran has provided Donald Trump with a very welcome birthday present, although it's wrapped in a fair measure of uncertainty. In his social media post heralding the agreement, the American president said that the Strait of Hormuz would be open to commercial shipping and the US would lift its naval blockade.
Billowell urges protesters to call off sit-ins. Party's AJK wing wants elections schedule withdrawn as PMLN insists on elections without delay. 2 deaths reported from Revolako Islamabad. In what appears to be a rethink of the elections in Azod Jammu and Kashmir AJK, the PPP swung into action on Sunday, with its chairman urging the Joint Awaji Action Committee chapter to end its protests and its AJK chapter asking the Election Commission to withdraw the election schedule. US and Iranian officials said they had agreed on a framework to end the war, halt the US blockade of Iran, and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a preliminary pact that sent oil prices falling but leaves the fate of Iran's nuclear program to further negotiations. The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. US President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform around 5:30 p.m. ET local time in Washington, 21:03 GMT on Sunday.
As Washington and Tehran explore the contours of a possible new nuclear agreement following recent military strikes and a ceasefire, the emerging framework appears markedly different from the deal negotiated by former President Barack Obama in 2015. Yet experts who helped craft the original agreement argue that diplomacy remains indispensable, regardless of military developments, and caution that any lasting settlement will ultimately depend on verification, inspections and mutual compromise. A prominent Ukrainian monastery complex in the heart of Kyiv is on fire following a massive Russian attack overnight into Monday that wounded more than a dozen people in the capital, according to local authorities. Each showed flames billowing from the Kyiv-Pechursk Lavra, which traces its roots back almost 1,000 years following the attack, which wounded at least 18 across the city, according to Mayor Vitaly Klitschko.
Washington, D.C., a newly struck deal to end the US-Israel war on Iran is being hailed as a strategic victory by US President Donald Trump and his allies, though the specific terms of the agreement remain unknown. Praise from supporters poured in for the US president on Sunday, despite questions over which commitments would be included in the initial Memorandum of Understanding, MOO, to be signed on Friday, and which issues, such as Iran's nuclear program, would only be opened for negotiations after the deal is inked.
US President Donald Trump has announced that a deal with Iran will be signed this Friday, following a series of statements that suggesting a ceasefire agreement after more than 100 days of war. Tehran has since confirmed the announcement, saying that an end to the war, which began following a US-Israeli assault on Iran on the 28th February, will be declared early on Monday morning GMT. Los Angeles. Upon arrival in the United States, Iran's head coach Amir Galanoe wanted to talk about football. Before Iran's first press conference in Los Angeles on Sunday, FIFA officials warned reporters to stick to sport and tactics when addressing Galanoe and striker Mehdi Taremi. Mutare, Zimbabwe, new homesteads cling to the slopes of Zimbabwe's Eastern Highlands, a fertile mountain region that has become a destination for people fleeing drought-stricken parts of the country. Many arrived hoping to rebuild their lives on land where crops can still grow. Now they fear they could be forced out as the government intensifies a crackdown on illegal settlements. Two helicopters collided over Rio de Janeiro on Sunday morning and crashed in the city's western zone, killing all 6 people aboard. Firefighters said Rio de Janeiro's military fire department said that one of the helicopters crashed on the parking lot of a car dealership, where several electric vehicles were parked, igniting a fire that was extinguished. UEFA President Alexander Ceferin has been criticised by football governing bodies in Asia, Africa and the Caribbean for reportedly saying that the expanded 48-team FIFA World Cup has led to many uninteresting matches. The football associations of Cape Verde, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Curaçao, Haiti, Jordan, Uzbekistan, Algeria, Egypt, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Morocco, Senegal, South Africa and Tunisia said in a statement on Sunday that they respectfully but firmly reject Ceferin's comments.
Japan scored an 88th-minute equaliser as they twice fought back to rescue a 2-2 draw with the Netherlands in front of 69,285 spectators in Texas, opening their World Cup campaigns. A match that had bubbled away in the first period sparked into life in the second half on Sunday.
United States President Donald Trump has announced that a ceasefire deal with Iran has been agreed to and that toll-free shipping through the Strait of Hormuz will now begin. The agreement, later confirmed by Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister on Sunday, will immediately end hostilities between Iran and the US.